Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Alan Oliver here. It's been about almost 4 months since I recorded my last video on the matter of based on this report, which is Seeking Truth, Demanding Justice, Defrauding of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court to Steal William Oliver's Estate. I had promised that I would try to keep the videos coming a lot closer together, because if people really are interested in the story, as they should be, then I think their interest will be more piqued if the stories could follow closely one behind the other. Due to my workload, as I say, I'm a carpenter. Sometimes I have to try to get things done before I go out to work. And one of the reasons for that is because of the time difference between where I am and St. Vincent. And that time difference varies based on daylight saving time, whether it's 2 hours difference or 3 hours difference. So sometimes I get home real late and I'm real tired. And besides that, the last 4 months or so has been one way I'm waiting for information, right? And sometimes I don't get the information till the last moment. So before I go any further, I would like to just repeat the requests that my grandchildren have encouraged me to do whenever I do these videos, is to ask you to please like, share, comment, and don't forget to press the notification bell so that you will have ideas to when a new video is released, and also to please subscribe. I have right now, I think, about 27 subscribers, and I really appreciate you guys' interest in the story. It is a story which is of national importance or regional importance, because it's the defrauding of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court. I think this story should be very interesting to those within the legal profession, and it would be good for like young lawyers. I mean, I've spoken to all the lawyers who have told me that they can't believe that this kind of thing is happening, or that this kind of thing has happened, and the reluctance of some of the lawyers to take this matter to court. Well, we all understand why they would be reluctant to take it to court, because it is understandable that the legal fraternity really don't want to be taking each other to court. Jomo Thomas did state in one of his Voices program that he had tried to take another lawyer to court, and he was referred to as a demon and all that kind of thing. Okay, so they're all colleagues, and I understand to many it would be painful, and they really don't want to have to take each other to court. But there's hypocrisy in that, as officers of the court, they are obligated, or should be obligated, to standing up for justice. And it shouldn't matter who the offenders are or who the victims are. Justice should be served, and the rule of law should be respected. So I am grateful for those who may have some positive to offer. Um, I have been informed, reliably informed, and it has been verified by other lawyers that right now there are a lot of lawyers in St. Vincent who are upset with me. This if I just turn the camera a little around just to show you, on the wall here is a picture of my mother. Okay, and my mother passed away on the 14th of March, National Heroes Day in St. Vincent. She was 91 years of age, and I unfortunately was not able and was not encouraged to go home to see her before she died, and also not to go home for her funeral. Those who are familiar with the story would know that I have death threats against me. And even Jomo Thomas has said that, in St. Vincent, it's like $1,500 to have somebody assassinated. Other lawyers told me that that sounds very high because they show there are people there who would knock me off for $300. I have been taunted by the culprits involved in this fraud, especially Mr. Sean Oliver up at the top of me, right? And he has literally been taunting me to try to see if he could get me upset enough to prove to him that I'm not afraid of anybody and I would come home for my mother's funeral. And I know what their intention was, because I know they would monitor my mother's funeral to see if I would show up, because I know what the intention is. Jomo Thomas did tell me that if I was in St. Vincent, he would not have allowed me to be saying the things that I'm saying.
But I know the only reason why you do all this shit is because you're where you are. You would not have done that. Or in any event, I would not have allowed you to do that if you had been here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So having said that, you're well warned.
And I know what that means. Sean Oliver did tell me since back in 2021 that I will meet my untimely demise. And he has for the past 4 years been up to last week. He will find me, and he's still trying to get my address. And I will get what is coming to me. So I am not dumb enough. I made my path straight with my mother, and she approved of me not coming to St. Vincent.
Watch me, ma. Well, I gonna stop here as long as it ain't safe for come home.
So I am as disheartening as it was. I am committed to this cause for justice. It is a cause to which my mother was committed. She tried to prevent this back in 1970. I stood by her side on the 14th of November 1970 when my uncle William Oliver got married. My mother did not go to his wedding. He was her little brother. And she practically, helped to raise him almost as if he's a son. They had such a great relationship. So she was totally not in favor of my uncle getting married to Adela Clark, which is Sean's mother. And here we are. She said her piece back in 1970. And the marriage still went through. And here we are, like in 2025, still trying to get justice and to have this matter dealt with, which she tried to prevent back in 1970. She's gone now. May her soul rest in peace. She has been a wonderful mother. So, due to that, you know, I've been trying my best to get as much information as possible and to have things in place. I had my first opportunity to actually be present in one of these hearings, and I'll get into that a bit just now. But I need to bring you up to date as to what has transpired since then. Now, if you are looking at this video for the first time, I'd encourage you to go back and look at the previous videos so you would really get to hear what the story is about. Okay? And for those who are already familiar with the story, like I said again, thanks for the interest. And if you would remember, I told you in the last video that there were two cases to be heard. One, which is the paternity claim to get William Oliver's name and Kenton McInnes, also known as Kenton Oliver's birth certificate, as father. And that's the second paternity claim, because I still didn't finish telling you what happened with the first attempt at getting that done when they had gone before Justice Esco Henry. And I will get into that a little later. The second case is to have the probate, which was granted to Sean Oliver, and the deed of assent, which was given to him, to have them cancelled. Now, if you remember, the case was heard on the 25th of November, 2024, and Sean's lawyer, Miss Sholanzita Banwell, did not show up for that case because he said she had another case. Now, just to remind you what this is about, the main culprits in this fraud are Sean Oliver. He's living in Scarborough, Ontario, Canada, but he's back and forth between Canada and St. Vincent. His aunt, Jennifer Wold Gabriel, and she's also living at the same address as Sean Oliver. And she's a convicted felon who was incarcerated for falsification of documents, fraud, possession of proceeds of crime, and embezzlement. And then there's another aunt of his, which is Jennifer's sister, Miss Edna Ashton. And she is back and forth. She's in the United Kingdom, and she's back and forth between United Kingdom and St. Vincent. And Jennifer and Edna are the two witnesses on the will, if you remember that. And then you have Miss Sholanzita Banwell, who is the president of the St. Vincent Bar Association. She's the one who submitted all the fraudulent documents to the court. She prepared fraudulent documents for the court also. And they were filed through the law firm of Jomo Thomas Chambers. I don't know, that Chambers has another name also. I think it's Thomas and Banwell Chambers, or Thomas and Banwell Inc., or something like that, right? And then you have Miss Andrea Young. Andrea Young was the registrar who did the probate And she herself, uh, as the presiding, let's say the presiding judge for this probate, also submitted fraudulent or false witness statement as part of the application. So in the probate, she played the role of both a witness and the presiding judge. Since then, she has been removed as registrar. I understand so has her deputy, Miss Charlene Douglas, whose signature is all over these documents as the one who took before whom the oaths were made for the affidavits and so on. In the application for letters of administration for William Oliver's estate, and also in the previous application for posthumous paternity claim by Kenton McInnes to have William Oliver's name on his birth certificate. So these are people who are very familiar with, should be very familiar with matters of William Oliver's estate. So those are the main individuals. All the other individuals, there's a lot of them here, right? They have either tried to cover it up, willfully delayed to prevent us from getting it into the court. There are people who have committed legal malpractice, ineffective assistance by counsel. This involves matters of procedural impropriety. So there's a lot involved in this case. And there are a lot of people involved in this case. So we'll get more into that, but let me give you an update as to what happened. So the case was then rescheduled for the 20th of January after Miss Barnwell didn't show up on the 25th of November. 20th of January 2025. I got to understand after that Mr. Dwayne Daniel was taking instructions, and Sean Oliver informed the court that Miss Charlene Zita Barnwell was no longer his lawyer. So Mr. Dwayne Daniel was taking instructions. And when I was given that information, I objected to Mr. Dwayne Daniel representing Sean Oliver. And I'll get into a little more of details of that. But the main reason why I objected is because we had counsel from Mr. Dwayne Daniel on the matter, because we were trying to get him to represent Kenton and his other siblings in this matter to get the matter before the court. And based on the instructions we got from Mr. Dwayne Daniel during the consultation and the advice, I proceeded to do my own research based on that. And what I found led me to believe that should he be representing Sean Oliver, it would be a matter of a conflict of interest. I think it would be unfair to Sean Oliver, because I believe that everybody has the right to a free and fair and just day at court. And as corrupt and fraudulent and thief as Sean Oliver might be, I think he has a right, like Zita Barnwell, like Kenton McInnes. And I expect that should I ever end up before the court, that I too would have a fair hearing. I am not too sure right now that that could be guaranteed after what I'm seeing in front of me, based on all the evidence that I have in front of me. I could this is a few of the files that I have with the documents. But based on what I have in front of me here, I am not sure that I would be guaranteed, as Kenton has not been guaranteed, a fair day in court. But and this is the system we have to work under. As corrupted as it might be, we have to still pursue justice. As I've said before, I am the proverbial, persistent widow. Someone will be willing to give us justice. And it is always my intention in life to give everybody the benefit of the doubt and to base my opinions on evidence. So I trust that the judges at the court would give us a fair hearing. But what happened is that case was put off again, and I then asked the attorneys to please advise me, because I then got a message that Mr. Dwayne Daniel has given notice that he will be withdrawing his services from Sean Oliver, because I actually sent a copy of the receipt that we had from Mr. Dwayne Daniel to show that we had consultation with Mr. Dwayne Daniel. So then I got a call, and I was told that Miss Kay Backus is now taking instructions. And what was my opinion on that? And as I explained, I didn't have a problem with Ms. Backus representing Sean Oliver, because I was advised when we were looking for a lawyer to take this matter to court to get Ms. Backus. But at that time, there was a politically heated case of the shooting of Mr. Cornelius John, and both Miss Backus and Dwayne Daniel were prominent lawyers in that case. And I honestly didn't want this matter with William Oliver's estate to become something political, which I am convinced at some point it would become political. And I myself right now appalled at the fact that all these unscrupulous lawyers who are involved in this fraud are associated with one political party or another. Yet nobody, a matter of fact, people associated with the New Democratic Party, the opposition New Democratic Party, seem to have a greater issue with me speaking about this matter than people with the Unity Labour Party. I have not had anybody from the Unity Labour Party cursing me out, calling me any kind of negative things, but I've had a lot from the New Democratic Party. I mean, if you look at even that bottom row there, right? I could show you even out on the last pause now there. That's Mr. Patel Matthews. And these are the kind of hypocrites that I am dealing with, who would tell you how much they are fighting for justice and they want to end corruption and all that kind of thing. But they have a problem with me speaking out about Charlene Zita Barnwell, former senator of the New Democratic Party, committing this fraud. And they have a problem with me questioning the integrity of the New Democratic Party, wanting to take leadership in the country, claiming that they intend to end corruption, but they have nothing to say about the corrupt actions of members of their organization. So on March 31st, the matters again went before the court, with this time as Miss Kay Backus as the defense attorney for Sean Oliver. And I had the opportunity to attend court virtually because I don't know how much of the general public knows right now that a lot of the cases are done through e-litigation, which is virtually you could go online and they send you a link and you attend court. I look forward to the day when it's a more advanced stage where anybody could go and hook up and get into the court and see, so that we could see how the court functions. You know, my problem has always been I've been waiting for somebody who was at the court to tell me what happened at the court, because also this is a case that so far no journalist, nobody from the media wants to cover it. A matter of fact, I was informed by one journalist that the editors of the media houses are afraid to touch this matter. Another journalist told me that, you know, basically he was reluctant to touch it. He didn't, he said, oh, he would have to do this investigation. He had to check this first because he already have all kind of warnings about defamation suits and people telling him he must remember he have children. And if you want to be a hero, you know, that kind of thing. You know, the kind of intimidating kind of thing that they tried. They have tried it with me. You know, they have sent me warnings of defamation suits and so on. And I begged them. You know, I don't know what else I could do to get them to take me to court so that I could tell this story in the court. I don't know what else I could do. I mean, I have no intention of telling lies on anybody. But I'm sure anything that anybody could think about carrying me to court with, I not just tell you what happened. I have documentation, and like I say, this is just one set of documents. Okay, so I'm not worried about defamation suit. Like I say, even the lawyers that one lawyer that I've hired have warned me about libel and defamation and so on. And I basically would like to tell him, you take me to court. You know, because you hire these lawyers to represent these fatherless children, and then they figure that rather than taking the matter to court and having their unscrupulous colleagues be brought before the court, so that we as general public could know that we could trust the court, no, they would try to intimidate me into trying to convince the others, the beneficiaries of the estate, to accept the out-of-court settlements that they were offering. And that has led to nothing short of some bad blood, which some lawyers have towards me. You know, I am not going to encourage my family in any way to defraud the court. Because if Shaul and Zita Barnwell, Jomo Thomas Chambers, and these other lawyers could have done this to my family, then they have done it to the nation. Because that is our court. And God knows how many other times this might have been done, if not by these same lawyers, but by others. So, you know, we can't be asking for justice and the end of corruption, and then you allow people to intimidate you. As I said, Jomo Thomas have succeeded, for instance, in intimidating Kingsley De Freitas, because Kingsley De Freitas allowed me to speak on his program. And Kingsley did admit that he was intimidated by Jomo Thomas, and that's why he had to publicly apologize to Jomo Thomas for allowing me to speak. But we went back to court, and like I say, I got to attend the court virtually. It was a wonderful experience. It was an emotional experience to hear the judge, her ladyship Justice Gotel Tom, to hear her pass the order that the name William Oliver must be inserted on the birth certificate of Kenton McInnes. And while the two cases were before her, she chose to deal with the paternity first, because Kenton was also listed as a claimant or a plaintiff in the application for the cancellation of the probate. So we did get that out of the way. And it was a wonderful experience. It was very emotional, because after 4 years of trying to have that name inserted on the birth certificate, and knowing what they had done to him in the previous application, yeah. As I speak to you right now, I still don't know if he has gone to the registry to try to get an actual copy of his birth certificate, the new birth certificate yet. But there has been a new development in that, as I don't know if we remember from the will, okay? This is the will, as you might know from before. It's one sheet of paper, right? And the contents of the will, from the contents of the will here, right? One of the assets of the estate that is listed in the will is, and left for Sean Oliver, right? It says, to my son Sean Oliver, I leave, and one of the things listed is one account at Co-op Bank, GECU. Now, almost every Vincentian would know that there is no such entity as Co-op Bank, GECU. And that alone will tell you that this will is a fraud, because William Oliver never would have signed something saying he left an account at Co-op Bank, GECU, when he knows that he left an account at GECU. Okay? So, as I would have said in a previous video, in 2020, a declaration was made before Deputy Registrar Antonio John by Miss Rosemary Oliver Clark, that Kenton McInnes and Kenton Oliver was the one and same person, because my uncle had left that account at GECU with one beneficiary, and that was Kenton Oliver. But because Kenton birth certificate did not have William Oliver on it, and his ID card had Kenton McInnes, they had to make that declaration that is the same person. And the GECU did accept it, and they said he could get his money, because the account was his. He decided that he was not going to move the money from GECU. He was going to leave it there, and because he wanted to open an account for himself at GECU. So the money was never moved from GECU, but GECU had assured him that it was his money, okay? So now Justice Gotel Tom has passed the order that the name William Oliver be inserted as father on Kenton McInnes' board paper, which means that Kenton McInnes could now go back to carrying his name as Kenton Oliver, which he did before the age of 13. Now, why his name was changed to Kenton McInnes at about that age, 12 or 13, whichever it was, but it was common entrance class. Because what happened is basically the same thing that happened to me, and I'm sure it happened to a lot of other people, whether it's in St. Vincent or even in the other um, islands and territories within the jurisdiction of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, where you go to primary school and you are enrolled in daycare, kindergarten, whatever, as happened to Kenton. But with myself, I never went to daycare. I went to, well, I shouldn't say I didn't go to daycare. I went to Calico Creche as a little child. But primary school, and you go and you carry your father's name. And when you get to common entrance class, then they say you have to bring your board paper in. And when you take in your board paper, then they say you could no longer carry your father's name because your father's name is not on your birth certificate. So a lot of us then had to start carrying our mother's name. And you're not familiar with carrying your mother's name. So, you have to be reminded from time to time that you have to put your mother's name. So that's what happened to Kenton McInnes, right? So now that the court has ordered that his father's name be inserted in the birth certificate, he would now be able, if he choose, to carry Kenton Oliver. But this is what has happened. So the court passes the order. He decides while he is in the city and his siblings are with him, because they went to court also, because they are the plaintiffs also on the application for a cancellation of the probate. So he decides, since the judge has already passed the order that his father's name be put on his board paper so that he would now be Kenton Oliver, and his sister is with him, he goes to the credit union and he says, I would like to get my money now. I would like to open an account. And his intention was to also open an account for his sister, because he was the sole beneficiary of that account. So he wants to open an account for his sister also, some money from the account. Then then he is told by the credit union, sorry, you can't get the money. Or why? From what I was told when I checked, Mr. Sean Oliver, the fraudster, Sean Oliver, that thief, Sean Oliver, has sent a letter, as far as I understand, to the credit union, giving the credit union notice that he is going to take the credit union to court. He's going to sue the credit union for his money, because in the will, it says, to my son Sean Oliver, I leave the assets listed, one account at Co-op Bank, Geku. So Mr. Sean Oliver, he doesn't intend to give up. He shows no remorse for the fraud that he has committed, and he doesn't intend to give up. Now, Mr. Sean Oliver is like a cornered rat. But he doesn't have the mindset to say, I'm sorry, to surrender. So he is now blocked. Well, the credit union has now blocked Kenton McInnes from getting his money. until, as they say, when he brings the board paper with his father's name on it, then they would accept that, yes, he is Kenton Oliver, as is listed on the credit union account as the beneficiary. So that's basically it as to what the situation is. Something that came up at court, in the court, is that, you see, the act in relation to the civil procedure rules says that there are like 5 different ways that you could get your father's name on your birth paper. But there's only one that it lists that could be done posthumously, right? Which is if you could establish that there was a consistent and a recognized relationship of father-child between the individuals, the deceased and the child. Okay? But what was done, besides the affidavits, and the previous paternity claim had about 4 or 5 affidavits. One was also from my mother, where she had given an affidavit that she knew Kenton McInnes as Kenton Oliver, my uncle's son, since he was a baby. And as I say, she and my uncle were very close. She is almost 13 years older than him. And you know, in those days, when you had a family with, like, her mom had like 10 children. Okay? Okay. And when you have a family like that, then the older siblings take care of the littler ones as they come up. So she raised her younger brother. And she had gone and given her affidavit on his behalf to explain the relationship she knew between Kenton and his father. Right? But this time, what had happened is that the lawyer didn't want to use those old affidavits. And you couldn't use the one with my mom because she couldn't be cross-examined because since she had given that affidavit back in 2021, from about 2023, her mind started, So it is saying you couldn't really use her affidavit because you couldn't cross-examine her. So they basically had 2 affidavits, one from Kenton McInnes and one from another cousin. And what they also had was a DNA result from a DNA test that was done between Kenton and his sister, who had William Oliver's name on her birth certificate. And I think that came back being like, I think it's 99.98% sharing paternity, right? So basically, from what the judge says, it seemed like they didn't even need to have affidavit, that they could have just presented that. But I never knew that, because it doesn't say that in the CPR rules about presenting a DNA. All it said is that you had to have affidavits and people who could say, well, yes, I know there was an established, recognized relationship, consistent relationship between father and child. So I'll speak a little more on that, and I'm gonna give you the exact the rules and so on that when I talk about the previous paternity claim, because the previous paternity claim was in the court when the will was discovered. Okay, so the family is happy. All the supporters we have out there who are not very vocal publicly about their support for this cause, they are pleased that finally we have gotten over one hurdle, and we await a next date to be set for the application for the cancellation of the probate. Um, I am waiting to get an update from the attorney because they had to have legal stuff done, seeing that Miss Kebakos is now the new attorney for. Amazingly, the judge actually made acknowledged the situation where she says, every time this case is called, there's a new lawyer. So remember, the first time it was called, Zita Manuel was supposed to be the lawyer. The second time it was called, Dwayne Daniel was taking instruction. And then the third time it is called, here is Miss Kebakos. I am not sure. I wouldn't put my head on the block that the next time this case is called, that Miss Kebakos would be the lawyer. There's a great possibility that she may not be. But I hope that Sean Oliver has a lawyer the next time the case is called. He has been trying to taunt me and so on. Has some nasty things to say about the family, about my mother. You know. But God is good. We will. And I trust that this matter will open the eyes of the people. And the people will send a message to the legal fraternity that we have had enough. It is sad when you hear the stories that people have to tell about literally them being victims to their lawyers. It is sad. So, with that said, I hope that is a good enough update for you. And I will get into going back to the story because it's an incredible story. Like I said, we have just overcome one hurdle, but you would be amazed to hear how we got this far. You will be amazed to hear the role the police played. Kenton McInnes was arrested twice, just trying to defend his father's estate from these corrupt, unscrupulous fraudsters. And you'll hear how the court treated him. The system is corrupted. And I'm not just joining voices with other people and just making statements. Like I say, I got the evidence there. I've got the evidence, the documents that unscrupulous people like Miss Andrea Young, Registrar of the High Court, who has played the role of defendant, witness, and presiding judge in these matters of William Oliver's estate. Shaul and Zita Barnwell. You know, when I speak to lawyers about the unscrupulous things that we have been having to deal with and what we have gone through, they said to me, then take these things to the Bar Association, report them to the Bar Association. But then I don't know if it's out sarcasm or whatever. They say, oh, just remember, Zita Barnwell is the president of the Bar Association. And you see, Zita Barnwell is not the only executive member of the Bar Association who is involved in this matter. See, this matter involves individuals in both the New Democratic Party and the Unity Labour Party. Hence the reason why neither the Unity Labour Party members nor the New Democratic Party members wants to say anything about this matter. So there's a meme that says, "You're angry at me for exposing the fraud and corruption, but you're not angry at the people who committed the fraud and corruption." That's the situation that I am in right now. I got more people angry at me for speaking out about this fraud and corruption than people who are supporting me. But we are told that if you see something, say something. And I am warned, even by people within the legal fraternity. That's why I didn't go home for my mother's funeral. You see, because I believe that I serve a greater purpose. I had to present myself to my mother so that she could identify me before she acknowledged it's Alan. And it was this. She would actually ask to see that white patch of hair before she accepted that it was Alan. Yep. Thanks to technology, we were able to FaceTime a lot. Whether WhatsApp or what, we were able to FaceTime a lot. And whenever I'm speaking to her, I would have to bow to her so that she could see that white patch. And then she say, "Oh, it's Alan." So, it's a little less than an hour. And I wouldn't bother to go into continue the story right now. So I'll make this video a short video, because my videos are usually like an hour and a half and so on. So this one gonna be just about an hour, a little under an hour. And please, as I say, please like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to press the notification button and make your comments. I really appreciate that feedback, and I will do a follow-up video as soon as possible over this weekend to continue the story, to tell you the story, and to show you the evidence into what has really transpired in this case. I really think it would make a good case study for law students to see how unscrupulous their own colleagues could be and the things that they need to avoid. And I will show you and tell you what I did to gather this evidence. This evidence which I turned over to the police. The police asked me if I could please turn over the evidence that I have on these fraudsters. And I turned it over to the police. And then I get a message from Sean Oliver telling me that he has the documents that I turned over to the police. Our system is corrupt. His aunt, Jennifer Will Gabriel, made a police report against Kenton McInnes. As a result of that report, Kenton McInnes was arrested. And in her police report, she stated she went to the police station after I had the evidence hand delivered to the police. She went there either later that day or the next day. And she states in her police report and names the police officer who gave her documents. You see, there's a certain level of corruption in St. Vincent. And it doesn't start at the bottom and work its way up. Everybody looks at the predial lastness and somebody who was found with a stick of marijuana, somebody who shoplifts. Those are considered the notorious criminals in St. Vincent. Everybody's crying out for justice. But they don't want to hear about the injustice perpetrated by their friends and colleagues. The same people who are out on the street protesting and demanding an end to corruption. When you tell them that that friend of yours, I have evidence that that friend of yours has committed fraud, is corrupt, you have people like these. People like these at the bottom here. Same people crying out for justice. They had a lot to say about me and to me. But you see, their cause is mine. My own may not be theirs, as far as they're concerned. But their cause is mine. Because I want to make sure that regardless of who we are, that whoever the defendant or the accused may be, that we all could stand before a just court. When the system is corrupt, none of us are safe. So, until then, I bid you farewell, and I will try to do another video as soon as possible. And I hope that you would look forward to it. And could you please give me some feedback on the video? This video was not intended really to tell you the story as well, but to bring you up to date as to what is happening. Okay. All right. God bless you. Love everybody. And until next time. Bye.